As we spacefarers explore the mysterious homeworld of House Varun, there is what appears to be a seemingly abandoned building on the outskirts of the capital city of Dazra. As we make our way towards it, we stare at perhaps the most impossible thing in all reality, even after having gone through the Unity multiple times as a Starborn. A chunk store slapped onto a House Varun piece of architecture seems to stare back at us as theories fly through our shocked mind. Is Chunks actually under the shadowy control of House Varun? Have we discovered that groat meat is the secret ingredient in every Chunks as indicated by the Chunks packaging we have found all over Dazra? Is Dazra the headquarters of the elusive Chunks Corporation that's permeated throughout the entirety of the settled systems? We nervously start exploring the interior of this Chunks branch, finding to yet again our surprise, signs of human habitation. Makeshift beds and tents litter the inside of the building. Laundry, lit candles, food, and other supplies can be found in every room. We hear a commotion from the lower level and find right outside of the doors are a group of House Varun civilians lounging around. A campfire with tables has been set up in addition to some other makeshift furniture for this group of people who were made homeless by the energy anomaly swallowing up half of Dazra a few weeks before we had arrived on Varun Kai. We receive some glances as we make our way to a refugee named Lugan Volkar, who seem willing to talk to us, at least initially. Volkar reveals that this group of refugees were indeed made homeless by the incident in Dazra that had swallowed up Anasko Varun and half of the population of House Varun. Yet, they were swiftly condemned and made into outcasts for daring to question if what had remained of the holy city of Dazra was even safe enough to live in anymore.
When the calamity struck, things changed. Some of us openly questioned whether it was safe to remain here. The condemnation was swift and merciless. We were shunned and cursed. People would not look at us. Merchants would not serve us. We left the city behind, knowing we would never again be forgiven or accepted.
Upon asking him why this utterly random chunk store is their refuge, Volkar answers,
Several reasons. For one, it's large enough to accommodate us comfortably. It's also far enough from the city to afford us some solitude. And lastly, it is unclaimed, and so there is nobody to object to our presence. In truth, people from the city don't like to come here. To many, it's a symbol of the greed and corruption that plague the other factions of humanity.
Greed? Corruption? What exactly happened at this chunk store? How did Chunks even establish a storefront on arguably the most hostile and xenophobic human planet in the entire known galaxy? We go back through the remnants of the Chunks restaurant and find several data slates that keep pushing our curiosity along. The first is a rather peculiar data slate addressed to a David, presumably the former manager of this Chunks branch, sent by the marketing director of Chunks, K. Hall. Interestingly, the date on the data slate reads as August 22nd, year 2239, which was 91 years ago. And even more interestingly, 1 year before the Serpent's Crusade, when House Varun waged all-out war on these settled systems for a bloody 23 years. K. Hall writes, David, my team has come up with some promotional campaign concepts we think you'll really like. I know things are tough out there, but we've got your back. So first, let's talk about objectives. We've identified these 3 top priorities: increase foot traffic and sell, foster trust among the locals, and create a sense of community. With these guiding principles in hand, here's what we've come up with. You might want to sit down because I'm confident these are gonna blow you away. Jinan Varun Trivia Night. Tagline: how much do you really know about the first speaker? Rotating discounts for members of the noble houses. Dolkef Week, etc. Charitable causes. Half your purchases goes to fund supplies for the houses of healing, etc. Great Serpent Dress-Up Night. Best costume wins free food for a day. Kids eat free days. Cost analysis needed here. Chunk eating contest? No, this is a terrible idea. Growth Fest! Going to leave this one up to you, but I think we can both agree that name is too good to pass up. Feel free to send any feedback our way. We're happy to work with you to refine these concepts. In the meantime, knock him dead. These almost century-old marketing concepts, even to us with half of Dazra obliterated, seem insane. The idea of costuming as a fanatical cult's deity, the Great Serpent, who they hold important above all else, including family, seems like suicide. Though Growthfest sounds like a good name, honestly. The next data slip we find is marked September 22nd in the year 2239, labeled Notice of Closure from David Connolly, the Chunks manager, to his staff at the branch. It's been a rewarding experience to work with you in serving our delicious and popular brand of packaged food products here on Va'ruun Kai. All good things must, however, come to an end. It is with a heavy heart that I report to you the decision to close this establishment, effective immediately. Please see me in the next 5 days to collect your final pay. At the end of that time, I'll be departing for a new location. Please know that I take great professional pride in the work we did together, especially in light of the challenges we faced. You did your best to uphold the Chunk standard, and I could not have asked for anything more. With gratitude and humility, Manager David Connolly. Despite the marketing suggestions, we can only guess that either the Chunks branch was doing terribly in terms of sales, or perhaps something else occurred. Finally, we chance upon the last data slate that we can see in the former Chunks establishment, a record left by the enigmatic Manager David Connolly, created on October 6 in the year 2239. It's finally happening. In a few days, a ship will come to take me home. They told me to lock the doors before I go, but what's the point? We're never coming back here. Since I have a little time to kill before closing up shop, I figured I'd write down the story of one of the most unique Chunks locations ever. Why? It's something to do, and who knows, maybe someday House Va'ruun will open up their society and welcome visitors to their planet. Someone will stumble across this place and wonder how in the hell Chunks managed to pull it off. Yeah, right. I wasn't in the room when the deal was made, but I know some of the terms. The location wouldn't be allowed in the city, and the company had to keep the planet's existence a very closely guarded secret. I guess some hotshot exec was trying to make a name for himself by establishing the most remarkable location in Chunks history. And to be fair, it really was. We had no outside competition here. As for me, I'm the fool who was cocky enough to think I could make this place work. And I was very, very wrong. We had issues almost from the start. It seemed like half the people came just to let me know how much they didn't want this place to be here, and the other half were afraid to come near the place at all. I guess they thought their great Serpent would frown upon any sign of embracing it. The way these people think is totally foreign to me. Getting supplies was a nightmare. In order to preserve the secrecy of the planet's location, the company employed a long, roundabout chain of third-party merchants. Even something as simple as replacing a chair for the dining room could take weeks or even months. When it was clear that sales were way below targets, I tried to hire a couple of locals. My thinking was, it might serve as a bridge to make people feel less wary of coming in. All that did, though, was drain the proverbial coffers in faster. The corporate marketing team tried to come up with ideas for promotions, but they ranged from laughable, growth fest, really, to heretical. Get a discount if you dress up like the Great Serpent. Were they trying to get me killed? The original plan had been to give it 5 years at least, but things started to change around here, and not in a good way. People started carrying weapons pretty much all the time. I heard stories about martial drills and fiery speeches in Jinan Plaza. I was getting a lot of dirty looks, more than usual. I sent message after message asking for an extraction, and finally the top brass agreed it was time to end the experiment. I don't think I've ever felt so relieved. So, what have I learned? That the people of House Va'ruun scared the hell out of me, basically, and that sometimes our reach exceeds our grasp here at Chunks. Probably best if we stick to what we know. Guess I'll wrap it up here. Part of me can't help but wonder what will become of this place. I like to think some herd of wild growths will move in. Then it'll really be a growth fest. Almost like a Waffle House closing or staying open in American regions prone to natural disaster, the heightening of tensions that Chunks manager David Connolly felt in the last days of his tenure that also partly led to the closing of the Chunks branch in perhaps the most dangerous restaurant spot in the galaxy was a telltale sign of an impending disaster, the Serpent's Crusade. Indeed, the fiery speeches that he had heard rumors of probably included the following.
Children! House Va'ruun! The time has come! Too long have we spread his truth, only to have it fall on deaf ears. Too long have we preached his understanding, and received nothing but derision in return. Is that our fate? To suffer the insults and disdain of unbelievers? Never! We are House Va'ruun, the promised, the holy anointed of the Great Serpent. We spread his word that the settled systems may know its place when comes the shrouding. And if the United Colonies, the Free Star Collective, the free peoples of the galaxy will not accept his love, let them be crushed in his embrace. Go forth, those whose blood is venom. whose voice the hiss of reason. Carry out thou charge to prepare the way. Bring to the unworthy our Serpent's crusade. Bring to them their woe.
Had it not been for his frantic request for extraction, David would most surely have died, as usually the first victims of fervent crusades or violence are those usually closest to the instigators at the outset. Instead, he presumably lived, as we don't see any sign of violence or a death around the premises, keeping perhaps one of the strangest non-disclosure agreement secrets to the grave, alongside whichever Chunk's executives also knew about the location of House Va'ruun's homeworld. We can surmise from the dates and Jinan Va'ruun's speech that there was certainly a cross-cultural and communication attempt between House Va'ruun and the Sol systems to some extent that allowed the existence of this mysterious Chunk's branch before the outbreak of war, which itself seems to have mostly been a result of House Va'ruun's frustration with its inability to peacefully convert the rest of humanity into following the Great Serpent. Even more interestingly, when David is describing the chain of logistics that had to exist for the slow supplying of whatever the Va'ruun Kai Chunk's branch needed, it feels like House Va'ruun itself later took inspiration from Chunks' operation under the regime of Jarek Va'ruun, with the implementation of third-party smuggling chains and government agents like Andrasia to procure supplies and information for the government. Almost a century later, we spacefarers stand where David stood, musing that while wild goat herds did not move in, the irony of House Va'ruun refugees using the former Chunks as shelter instead is certainly not lost on us. Thank you for watching this Starfield lore video. For more lore videos about Starfield, Warhammer 40k, Assassin's Creed, and other universes, definitely check out the rest on the channel and subscribe to support our content. If you need anything more Starfield, check out our partner, starfieldwiki.net. Thank you for watching, and see you guys soon.